Alright, Diablo players, very important news for Season 10. We have an emergency patch that just got deployed as far as the nodes. Now, the reason why this is important and the reason why I'm going to consider it an emergency is because I want to make sure you guys are up to date on this. Because when they just released the campfire the other day, they showed off a bunch of the changes, right? They released this patch notes and they had all of the newer updates for a lot of the numerical stats all available in blue. And this was really helpful for any content creator because we got to see the buffs and the nerfs. Now, after that, they released another separate section of another patch notes that is not found in here. You have to go to a different area, and if you go to the first one, you're going to see no nerfs to Bone Storm. The most important thing is Bone Storm is taking some massive nerfs. However, I want to say that it will still be playable if you're looking to do Tormented 4 content. However, if you want the top tier pit pushing build, it's no longer going to be anywhere near it because, well, the numbers aren't going to line up. So I went ahead and basically went over the most important patch notes for this emergency patch that I think is very important that you guys actually check out. So for starters, I'm going to go over the two massive changes here that are really critical if maybe some of you guys were interested in playing some of these builds. So for starters, there is a massive nerf to the Hydra build with the Serpentine plus Mana Shield. You can no longer combo both of those, and I'll explain why. But I'm just going over like the most important ones. And again, the Tornado Necromancer is a giga nerf to the push build, and the reason why is, well, you're just gonna not do enough damage. Now, this one is somewhat understandable because of like lag. Like if you create too many tornadoes and they're taking too much damage, it's basically Ball Lightning in Season 2 all over again, where the game simply will not function. So I understand it from a server stability standpoint of why they did this emergency nerf, but I really wish that they put this out earlier because myself as well as a lot of other content creators were getting all of our like top tier lists talking about it, and then they just like, surprise, there's another separate patch note that got like released way later. But there is nothing to compensate for it. They didn't give us extra damage. They, in fact, nerfed it even harder. I don't know why. I guess they just don't really want us to play this. So if you were really hyped up to play it, again, for Tormented 4 content, let me go ahead and show you guys the Tornado Necromancer, because it's actually one of like the top tier builds for the new mode. There is a limit on how many tornadoes you can spawn. And there is actually some massive buffs to the Rogue and a massive amount of buffs to the Spiritborn. And Spiritborn was actually already doing pretty good, but the Rogue in particular, I was saying, was just miles behind. They did give it a small buff, and I even was saying, dude, it's still not enough. So I guess they might have watched my video. So, yo, shout out to Blizzard. I appreciate you. As long as you keep buffing the Rogue, we're in good business. But it's still, honestly, guys, compared to what's available on the Sorc, I would still say lock in the Sorc. This new emergency patch is not going to be making, at least in my personal opinion, unless there's some sort of broken new mechanic, which sometimes, I'm going to be real with you guys, Diablo 4's best builds sometimes are unintended bugs, and we will see kind of how interactions work because there's still a lot of things that may not be registering properly, and so obviously maybe we will have to wait like a week after to see if they fix any other bugs. But I'm actually wondering for you guys, if you want to answer this at the start of the video, which class do you think is going to be the best and why is it Sorc? But anyways, let's start off with the Sorc change, and I'll talk about why the Sorc with the Hydra build is getting a nerf. So this has to do with specifically Serpentine aspect. That's the one that the more mana that you spend, the more damage that you get. Now, this had an internal cap of 500 mana maximum, but it also only consumed 500 mana no matter what. So it would not deplete all of your resource, which is kind of dumb because the way it works now with this newest update means that you will drain all your mana, not getting the bonus for all the bonus mana that you had past 500. It's a balance issue, but on top of that, even before, it would only consume 500 because you can only absorb 500. It's the same thing with Lockrens. Like there's a 500 like damage like bonus cap. But the reason why this is a major nerf is not just that it uses up all your mana. If you play with Mana Shield, this means your character is instantly dead. So basically, you can no longer play Mana Shield with the Hydra Sorc. However, there is another buff to the Sorc, so there was kind of a give and a take. If you use like a basic skill, it just increases all of your damage. So if you want to run that one, you get a small little buff there. But again, the nice thing was this massive pool of mana that you would have with the new build, and it would only consume 500. So basically, the Hydra Sorc is not dead, but if you want to play with Mana Shield, it is 100% dead. You literally can't, because you'll just one-shot yourself, basically. You'll have literally, I think you could have like 10 HP is like the highest that you can have if you want to play Mana Shield, and it uses up all your mana, and then you will just rip. So as far as Bone Storm, what are the new Bone Storm nerfs? So you guys are seeing the gameplay in the background. This is, again, one of the biggest disappointments for this emergency nerf. They made it so the duration got reduced from 4 seconds to 2. So that's half your damage gone right there. Then they also made it so bone storms are capped at 10. And honestly, like, this isn't really that bad. This is like server stability, and like maybe you can get like, you know, 15, 20-ish. So like this is another like about half or more nerf, which is pretty bad. And there's another nerf though, that wasn't it. They also changed a couple other things with Necro that I wanted to highlight here. So I'm gonna go over like the most important ones, and I'll kind of like rapid fire check out the rest of like the patch notes, because again, this is like the newest one, and I'm going over the important stuff here. Army of the Dead damage got increased. Honestly, I feel like this thing has always been pretty like lackluster. Bloodlance is getting some buffs, though. They increased the damage over here. There's also enhanced Bloodlance cast less requirements, reduced from 5 to 6. So Bloodlance, it looks like they want us to play this because they also introduced the Mutilator plate to the Chaos Unique. So maybe you can look at this, but I'll be honest, I think they think that Shadow Bone, well, it's the Shadow Blight build, is probably going to be one of like the better variants of Necromancer now that the Tornado Necromancer. I mean, I think at this point probably like 20 plus tornadoes, but yeah, that's just taking too big of a nerf. And then they also increased the damage of Bloodlance. Again, they're just really wanting us to play this. So here's the other nerf. It's now capped at 100x critical strike damage for the Lidless Wall. So again, so many nerfs with the Tornado Necromancer. But again, if you're doing the Infernal Hordes content, I want to still say that you can lock in and you can play. It's still a fun build, but if you wanted the #1 push build, because at the time it was like some variant of like Shadow Wave, Shadow Blight, whatever you want to call that sort of build, they were kind of slowly neck and neck. Like sometimes one would go over the other, but now it doesn't look like it's going to be close. But again, Tormented 4 content, if you're interested in just doing that, hey, you're fine, man. As far as Druid, they added some really cool thing to specifically the passive Nature's Fury, which I think is a really good change. That's the thing where it lets you activate your other skills from like a different type. When you activate one of your skills, it's the key passive. And then now it makes it so skills that are on your action bar are now heavily favored. So maybe now you can force some of the skills that you want. I actually think this is a really cool idea. This is like one of like the bigger highlights here, and I would say it's pretty good. There's a few other Druid buffs that we'll go over, but I think this is potentially one of the coolest things. So if you are playing Druid and you're running a build with that, run those skills on your bar. Spiritborn got some buffs over here with Enhanced Payback, making the damage stack up much, much faster, and the total stacks to reach maximum bonus got reduced over here. So again, just a little bit more quality of life here. There is a cap on the primary Centipede Spirit Hall bonus, so the damage reduction is now capped at 80%, but that's fine. It shouldn't really matter too much. You shouldn't really worry about damage reduction. All you care about in Diablo is damage, but it's a nerf over there. And then with Crushing Hand, the damage got increased by double, so they just double that. It looks like they really want us to play with Gorilla. If you guys remember, I even made a video about it. The Gorilla brand new stuff was broken in the PTR, so no one really got to test it out because it would apply the shields to the enemies, which led the enemies to be basically immortal. Quill Volley is taking a nerf, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal because there's so many other buffs in here. The Protector, when you have the rank 5, the Thorns damage bonus is now getting increased from 150 to 300%, and it now deals damage every 0.5. So basically, you're getting double here and double here. So like they give it kind of like quad, right? That's like really big. So that's going to be something to consider if you are playing the Spiritborn. Now, some of the highlights with Rogue, there's a lot of changes with Rogue. I'm talking about massive buffs, which is good. So let's see, what is Rogue getting? So previous, the stratagem over here, the non-damage combo point bonuses, now they're increased by 40% when you spend 3 combo points, so it's a 7% buff over there. And then the damage increased from Tricks of the Trade, so we're getting almost double right here, going from 30 to 50. And then with Cheap Shot, we're going from 30x to 50x. So again, just like, it feels so weird to get this as like an emergency patch. They're just like, okay, Rogue is very, very far behind. And they were, but they're just like double, 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 double. I'm like, okay, I take it. But I'm still going to be honest, the Sorc is definitely the class to play right now for a majority of players. As far as the Cheap Shot over here, this is actually kind of important. Oh, actually, is this a Deadly Ambush? I think this is, sometimes the text gets kind of scrambled when you copy and paste. But anyways, another passive that's getting changed. So you deal 5x increased damage for each nearby enemy that is crowd controlled up to 25. So this would basically suck during the bosses. And then when you stagger the boss, you get its full bonus. Now you just get 30x increased damage doubled against crowd control enemies. So now you just get 30x increased damage, comma, and then you get 60x against crowd-controlled enemies, which is another, like a big, massive buff, because when the boss is affected by the stagger bar, you get all of the crowd control, which is awesome. And then let me give you guys some other gameplay over here. I guess we can go to, I think we have a Evade Spiritborn or something. Okay, here's a Hoda Barb gameplay. All right, so also the damage bonus from Leyrana's Instinct got increased from 30% to 50, so again, nice little like double over there almost. And then with the Inner Sight, with I think this is Leyrana's Instinct, I think this is Deadly Ambush right here. But Leyrana's Instinct, so the previous one, when your Inner Sight gauge becomes full, you get to have this like 100% chance to dodge, and then your core skills to increase damage up to 25% of your core skill damage bonus while it remains full. But now your core skill damage is increased by 60%. When Inner Sight's gauge becomes full, you get 100% dodge chance for 2 seconds, which is kind of cool. And then from No Witness, we get a buff over here. The damage cap got increased, so basically, again, double. So pretty much with Rogue, you get most of these things like Exploit Weakness even. When you hit a vulnerable enemy, you had a 60% chance to increase your damage. And then this would go up to 25. So basically, it's like 25x damage in most cases. Now it's just 45x more vulnerable damage. And then the first time you hit a vulnerable enemy, their damage is reduced. So we're actually getting not only all these damage multipliers, but actual tankiness too. And I think this is a pretty big deal because if any of you guys tuned into when I was playing the PTR on Rogue, it was so bad, man. The survivability was bad, the damage was bad. Unless you really wanted to like do all these little hoops and tricks, pop potion to activate this, to activate all of these little bonuses. It was a really annoying class to play for your casual experience. And so I think the survivability is going to be a very nice welcome because you're going to be able to run this one in particular in every single build. So those are the main things that I wanted to highlight. There are some other ones in here, so I do encourage you guys to check it out. I'll also have it pinned, but it's just on the like official Blizzard website in case any of you guys want to check it out. But I felt like it was very important for me to go ahead and make this video, even though this is like, well, now this came out basically, I don't know the exact timing. It was like a day after they already showed their patch notes. Again, it's separate if you guys are trying to look for it. I will include both of them, but like one of them is kind of wrong because some of these stats are just outdated because they released a second set of patch notes like a day after. And for me, it's kind of confusing for players and content creators because you literally just put out the patch notes and then you're like, wait, hold on, new patch notes, we're changing everything. Especially when you literally change Bone Storm, and I was already like, guys, this is going to be one of the best classes. So it's not my doing. I did not nerf Bone Storm. It's just that like it's like an emergency patch for game stability. But I think that like if I can give Blizzard some feedback, if you're going to be like, okay, we're going to basically cut Bone Storm amount in half, we're going to cut all like the damage, the amount that you can produce, and the duration for lag compensation, that's fine. I totally get that from a server stability standpoint. But to make players excited, that you should have said, hey, we're going to make Bone Storm deal 200x more damage to make those players still feel like, oh, I like that build on the PTR. Let me kind of play something similar. Now, again, it's still going to be a viable build, but it will not be the push favored build. But they're probably going to be fixing a lot of other bugs too. But we'll wait and see. Let me know, guys, what you plan to play after these newest patch notes. Because if you're playing Hydra and you wanted to play Serpentine, yeah, it's going to be a no-go anymore. I think a lot of people probably look at Ball Lightning as well as Fireball. Fireball is much better for Infernal Hordes, but for push, I want to say that a lot of people will probably be interested in looking into the Ball Lightning, specifically the Super Ball Lightning. Both a lot of the builds with Sorc are going to be looking really good. Almost everything with Sorc can pretty much do pit 100, and I mean like almost everything because the class is just so good in Season 10. But let me know what you're playing down below. I'm still locked in Sorc. I know I normally like Rogue, and there's a lot of Rogue buffs, but I still got locked in Sorc, man. It's just way too powerful to say no to. Anyways, subscribe if you're new if you want to see any of the updates, and I'll be updating the build guides too because we definitely got to do some updates with the Bone Storm, and it really comes down to, well, if you just do it less damage. So anyways, take care, Diablo gamers. Peace out.